Will Liverpool win any trophies in the 25-26 season? That is the question. On paper, the answer feels obvious, but football isn't played on paper, and you know how quickly things can turn. Still, when you look at where Liverpool are right now, defending champions, record investment, stacked squad, perfect start, it almost looks too good to be true. But is it? Or is this the season where everything finally clicks and they don't win just one, they go for multiples? We're going to break this down from last season's struggles to this summer's wild transfer window, and of course, their chances across every competition. But before we even talk about the now, we need to quickly remember the last season. Because yes, Liverpool ended it as champions, but it wasn't smooth at all. They had stretches where the defence looked shaky, they had injuries piling up, and by March there was still doubts if they had enough legs left to finish strong. It was also the first season without Klopp, who had stepped away at the end of 23-24 after nearly a decade in charge. Onslaught arrived with pressure instantly on his back, and it wasn't easy. Salah was still brilliant, but he couldn't keep carrying the attack alone. Van Dijk was still a presence, but not the same wall he once was. Robertson was losing pace, Henderson and Fabinho had already gone, and while McAllister and Szoboszlai were good, they didn't fix everything. The midfield was functional, but not dominant. Squad depth was an issue every time 2 or 3 players were missing. But Slot managed to steady the ship, refine the system, and by the run-in, Liverpool hit their stride. And on April 27th, 2025, after a 5-1 win over Tottenham, they were officially crowned champions of England for the 20th time, their second Premier League title. The players delivered for their new coach and for themselves, but it wasn't dominant from start to finish. City slipped, Arsenal weren't consistent enough, and Liverpool capitalised. The last few weeks were scrappy, grinding out 1-0s, relying on Salah brilliance, late goals from Nunez, defensive heroics from Alisson. It was a title, yes, but not the type of title that makes you feel unstoppable. More like surviving a marathon with cramps in both legs, but still crossing the line first. Everyone knew that if they wanted to stay at the top, they needed investment, and FSG went all in. So let's look at that spending, because it was staggering. 446.5 million in one summer. Alexander Isak for 125 million straight from Newcastle. 23 goals last season. One of the best non-penalty expected goals per 90 numbers in the league. And a nightmare to press against because he doesn't just finish, he dribbles. Compare that to Darwin Nunez, who only managed to get 11 league goals in 30 appearances before being sold to Al Hilal for around 50 million this August. Isak is not just an addition, he's basically Nunez 2.0, the polished version. Then you've got Florian Wirtz from Leverkusen for 116. He was the creative hub of the Bundesliga champions. 12 goals and 19 assists in all competitions, and one of the highest progressive passing metrics in Europe. In short, he's the guy to unlock low blocks, something Liverpool struggled with last year. Then Hugo Ekitike, 79 million from Frankfurt. Younger, rawer, but versatile. He presses hard, he runs channels, he gives Slot a flexible forward who can play wide or central. Think of him as an insurance policy for when fixtures pile up. Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth, 40 million, is an attacking left-back who covers ground like prime Robertson. He wins duels, he's aggressive, and he gives them energy. And Jeremy Frimpong, just under 30 from Leverkusen, was one of the most productive wing-backs in Europe. 9 goals and 7 assists last season. He turns defence into attack in seconds. So, strengths and weaknesses? Isak's strength is his finishing and movement. His weakness is streakiness. He sometimes goes quiet for weeks. Wirtz brings creativity but doesn't defend much, which could put stress on the midfield. Ekitike has energy but lacks consistency. Kerkez is aggressive but can be caught out of position. Frimpong is electric but injury prone. Still, when you add this many weapons, you accept the risks. And the comparisons are obvious. Isak replaces Nunez as the reliable scorer. Wirtz replaces some of what Firmino used to do, drifting between lines, connecting midfield and attack. Kerkez is the heir to Robertson. Frimpong offers something Liverpool haven't had since prime Trent. A fullback who is as dangerous in the box as a winger. Ekitike is more like an Origi type. A squad player who can step up when needed. It's almost like they built a new spine in one window. But remember, not everything was arrivals. Trent Alexander-Arnold left for Real Madrid, ending a huge chapter for both him and the club. Luis Diaz was sold to Bayern Munich. Harvey Elliott was loaned to Aston Villa with an obligation to buy. And most heartbreakingly, Diogo Jota, who should have been a part of this season, tragically died in a car accident in Spain in July, days after his wedding. A loss far bigger than football, one that shook the squad and the fans. That context matters, because while Liverpool strengthened, they also had to cope with emotional and footballing gaps. Now, how does this change the tactics? Under Slot, Liverpool are already looking different. The fullbacks invert, creating central overloads, so Frimpong and Kerkez are often inside as much as wide. With Wirtz, you've got a proper number 10 style presence, something Klopp's system never really had. Isaac stretches defences, which opens more room for Salah. And that's the biggest point. Salah benefits the most from all of this. He doesn't have to drop deep as much, he can stay higher, he gets service, and he becomes deadlier. Szoboszlai already looks more comfortable because Wirtz takes creative responsibility, letting him drive into half spaces instead of forcing every pass. And when you imagine a front three of Salah, Isaac and Ekitike with Wirtz behind them, that's scary. And if you rotate, you can shift formations to a 4-3-2-1. Suddenly, Liverpool can line up in multiple ways depending on the opponent. Depth, which used to be a weakness, now becomes a weapon. Picture this. Alisson in goal, a back four of Frimpong, Konate, Van Dijk and Kerkez. In midfield, McAllister sitting with Endo, Szoboszlai and Wirtz ahead, and then Salah and Ekitike flanking Isaac. That's 11 players who can hurt you in different ways. And if that doesn't work, you tweak, you bring in youth, you change shape. It's variety that Klopp rarely had, but let's not kid ourselves. Every system has trade-offs. When you push fullbacks high, you leave space behind. When you commit Wirtz and Szoboszlai forward, you rely on defensive midfielders to cover. If McAllister or Endo can't handle transitions, Liverpool will get cut open. Slot is trying to balance that, pressing with more structure than Klopp's chaos. But the adjustment period could hurt them in games against top sides. And we already saw some of that in the Community Shield. Liverpool drew 2-2 with Crystal Palace and lost on penalties. The defending was messy, transitions were shaky, and Carragher called it absolutely shocking. A reminder that they're not bulletproof. So what's the realistic outlook? In the Premier League, they're title contenders. No doubt. The bookmakers, the pundits, even the rivals admit it. Arsenal will be right there, with Gyökeres adding bite up front. City might look a little off now, but Guardiola always finds answers. Chelsea are lurking, better than before. The league will be tight, but Liverpool have the edge. In the Champions League, it's trickier. Group stage should be fine, but knockout ties against Madrid or Bayern are different beasts. Best case scenario? Liverpool win the league and make a deep run in Europe, maybe even lift both. Worst case, injuries pile up, the defence collapses, and they finish second or third in the league while crashing out in the quarters of the Champions League. Still, even that scenario likely brings a domestic cup. That's how strong they are, and the numbers back it. The odds for a treble are between 50-1 and 100-1. A quadruple sits at 150-1. A league and cup double hovers around 10-1. Bookmakers don't hand those out lightly. And when 10 out of 10 pundits surveyed predict Liverpool to win the league, you know this isn't blind hype. This is based on results, form, and the squad in front of them. But let's expand the competition analysis a bit more. Arsenal are steady, well-coached, and consistent. Gyökeres gives them a target man they missed. They are Liverpool's main domestic rivals. City still have Rodri, Haaland, and Pep. Even when they start to slow, they usually finish strong. Chelsea are resurgent, with Enzo, Palmer, and their Club World Cup confidence. Spurs are decent, but not true contenders. United? Well, United are chaos, and we'll get into them later. In Europe, PSG remain unpredictable, Bayern are always dangerous, Madrid never die, and Inter are strong. Liverpool will have to beat at least two of those if they want to win the Champions League. Now, let's stretch the scenarios out. Best case, Liverpool dominate the league, Salah hits 30 goals in all competitions, Isaac bags 20 plus, Wirtz racks up 15 assists, and they stay fit. They win the league by March, push to the final of the Champions League, and add at least one domestic cup. That's a historic season. Worst case, Salah or Isaac goes down injured, Van Dijk struggles, the defence collapses, and Slot finds himself under pressure. They scrape third in the league, lose the Champions League quarters, and get knocked out of the FA Cup early. That's still not a disaster, but it would feel like one compared to the expectations. So where do we land? Will Liverpool win any trophies in 25-26? Yes, absolutely yes. The only debate is how many. 1, 2, 3? Nobody sane says 0. And if they somehow win the Champions League too, then we're talking about one of the greatest squads English football has seen. If they only win the league again, that's still back-to-back titles. And that's historic. Either way, they're adding to the cabinet. And that brings us to the next big question. Liverpool aren't the only team under pressure this season. What about Manchester United? Because while Liverpool are chasing trophies, United are chasing relevance. And that is a whole different kind of story. And if you thought Liverpool's situation was intense, wait until you see what's happening at Old Trafford.